Hello and welcome. Today we're embarking on a journey to the Great White North, a land known for its friendly people, breathtaking scenery, and an uncanny ability to apologize for things they didn't even do. But beneath that veneer of politeness, Canada hides a surprising truth. It's an economic powerhouse. Yes, you heard that right. Canada, the land of moose, hockey, and universal healthcare, is also a global economic player. Now you might be thinking, hold on, John, Canada? Really? Are we talking about the same country that lost a war to a bunch of flightless birds? And to that I say, yes. But also, ouch. We're going to delve into how Canada, a country that was once primarily known for exporting beaver pelts and apologies, managed to transform itself into a modern economic powerhouse. Buckle up, because this is going to be interesting. Let's address the elephant in the room, or should I say, the moose on the hockey rink. When you think of the Canadian economy, you might picture endless forests, burly lumberjacks, and rivers of delicious maple syrup. And while those things are certainly a part of the picture, they don't tell the whole story. Canada's economy is surprisingly diverse, kind of like a well-stocked poutine. You've got your base of natural resources, but on top of that you've got layers of technology, services, and even a sprinkle of manufacturing. It's like finding out your friendly neighborhood Canadian barista also moonlights as a software engineer who can build a log cabin with his bare hands. You wouldn't expect it, but you're also strangely impressed. This diversified approach has served Canada well, making it one of the most stable and resilient economies in the world. It's like the economic equivalent of a warm bowl of Kraft dinner on a cold winter's night, comforting, reliable, and always there for you. Now, let's talk about Canada's trading partners. I'm sure you're not surprised to hear that the United States is Canada's biggest trading partner. I mean, geographically speaking, they're practically joined at the hip. It's a relationship that could best be described as complicated. On one hand, they're like siblings who bicker constantly but deep down love each other. On the other hand, one of them has a bit of a habit of starting trade wars. But here's the thing, Canada is nobody's economic pushover. It has been actively diversifying its trade relationships, looking beyond its southern neighbor to forge new partnerships with countries in Europe, Asia, and beyond. It's like Canada finally realized that it doesn't have to rely solely on its loud, attention-grabbing sibling and that it can make its own friends in the global playground. And that, my friends, is a beautiful thing. Let's not forget about Canada's abundant natural resources. We're talking timber, minerals, and enough oil to make even the thirstiest Texan blush. These resources have played a pivotal role in Canada's economic success, providing a steady stream of exports and attracting foreign investment. Now I know what you're thinking. John, isn't relying on natural resources a bit, well, 20th century? And you're not wrong. That's why Canada has been investing heavily in renewable energy and sustainable resource management. Think of it this way, Canada is like that friend who won the lottery, but instead of blowing it all on a solid gold hot tub, they invested in their future. They're still enjoying the benefits of their good fortune, but they're also planning for a more sustainable tomorrow. It's a delicate balancing act, but Canada seems to be managing it with its usual mix of pragmatism and, dare I say it, common sense. Finally, we can't talk about the Canadian economy without mentioning its thriving agriculture and technology sectors. Yes, you heard that right, technology. Turns out Canada is more than just a nation of lumberjacks and hockey players. They're also coding, innovating, and generally being surprisingly good at this whole tech thing. From artificial intelligence to clean technology, Canada is making its mark on the global stage. It's like discovering that your grandpa, who still uses a rotary phone, also has a secret Instagram account where he posts pictures of his award-winning sourdough bread. It's unexpected, but also strangely delightful. This unique blend of traditional industries and cutting-edge technology is what makes the Canadian economy so fascinating. It's a country that embraces its past while also looking towards the future, and that's a recipe for success in anyone's book. Now let's talk politics, because what's more exciting than discussing the intricacies of a country's political system? I know, you'd rather watch paint dry, but trust me, Canada's political landscape is anything but boring. First of all, they've got a queen. Yes, you heard that right. Canada is a constitutional monarchy, which is a fancy way of saying they have a queen. But she mostly just drinks tea and looks regal on their money. It's a bit like having a very polite, very well-dressed roommate who you occasionally have to lend money to. You're not entirely sure what they do all day, but they seem harmless enough. But don't let the Queen fool you. Canada takes its democracy seriously. They have a parliamentary system, which means that the Prime Minister, the head of government, is accountable to the elected parliament. Now, Canadian politics aren't without their share of drama. I mean, it's still politics, right? But compared to the dumpster fire that is American politics, it's practically a tea party hosted by kittens. They have multiple political parties, each with their own platform and priorities. There's the Liberal Party, the Conservative Party, the New Democratic Party, and a whole bunch of others that are just as confused by their existence as you are. Imagine a political system where politicians actually debate policy instead of just yelling at each other on cable news. It's a novel concept, I know. But don't let the civility fool you. Canadian politicians can be just as ruthless and cunning as their counterparts in other countries. They just do it with a smile and a polite sorry, eh? One thing that sets Canada apart on the world stage is its unwavering commitment to human rights and social inclusion. This is a country that embraces diversity and strives to create a just and equitable society for all. From its early adoption of universal healthcare to its progressive stance on LGBTQ+ rights, Canada has consistently been a beacon of hope for those seeking a more inclusive and compassionate world. It's like Canada is that one friend who's always willing to lend a helping hand, even if it means going out of their way. They're not perfect, but they're trying their best, and that counts for something. Of course, no country is perfect, and Canada still has its own challenges to address. But its commitment to human rights is undeniable and serves as a model for other nations to aspire to. Finally, let's talk about Canada's role in the world. Now, some people might say that Canada is like America's hat. Always there, often overlooked, but occasionally useful for keeping the sun out of your eyes. But those people would be wrong. Canada is a proud and independent nation with its own unique voice on the world stage. They're active members of international organizations like the United Nations and the G7, and they're known for their peacekeeping efforts and humanitarian aid. It's like Canada is that quiet kid in class who everyone underestimates until they deliver a stunning presentation that blows everyone away. Canada might not always be the loudest voice in the room, but when they speak, the world listens. They're a force for good in the world, and that's something to be celebrated. Alright, so we've talked about Canada's surprisingly robust economy, their shockingly polite political landscape, but now, buckle up, because things are about to get genuinely interesting. We're diving into Canada's cultural landscape, and let me tell you, it's a lot more exciting than a moose wearing a turtleneck. Canada, you see, is like the world's perfectly curated dinner party. They've got a little something for everyone, a delightful mix of cultures, languages, and traditions, all somehow managing to coexist without descending into utter chaos. It's frankly baffling. Think of it like this. If America is a melting pot, then Canada is more of a really well-organized salad bowl. Everyone gets to keep their own distinct flavor, but they all come together to create something delicious and, dare I say, surprisingly cohesive. Now, let's be clear. This isn't to say Canada's some utopian paradise free from cultural clashes. Just like any good dinner party, there are bound to be a few awkward encounters and maybe a spilled drink or two. But, and this is the important bit, they generally manage to handle these bumps in the road with a level of civility and understanding that would make even the most passive-aggressive Midwesterner blush. Now, let's talk about languages, shall we? Specifically, Canada's two official languages, English and French. Now you might think having two official languages would be a recipe for disaster, a linguistic minefield just waiting to explode, and look, you're not wrong, there are definitely times when this bilingual balancing act leads to some shall we say, interesting situations, like, imagine trying to order a simple coffee and accidentally launching into a passionate debate about Quebec sovereignty because you accidentally used the wrong word for cream. But, and this might come as a shock, for the most part, Canadians handle this linguistic juggling act with impressive grace. It's almost as if they figured out that being able to speak to more people around the world is, and hear me out on this, a good thing. Of course, the whole French-English thing is a bit more nuanced, particularly in Quebec, where they take their French language and culture very, very seriously. Seriously, don't even think about ordering a double-double in certain parts of Montreal, unless you're prepared to face the wrath of 1,000 angry francophones. But hey, that's a story for another time. One potentially involving a panicked escape from a boulangerie while clutching a half-eaten baguette. The point is, Canada's bilingualism, while occasionally messy, is a testament to their commitment to inclusivity and, dare I say, cultural sophistication. Now let's talk about immigration, shall we? Because when it comes to welcoming newcomers, Canada is basically the golden retriever of countries. Always happy to see you, tail wagging furiously, and ready to shower you with unconditional love, or at least a pamphlet on universal healthcare. Unlike some countries we could mention, Canada recognizes that immigration isn't just some box to be ticked on a moral checklist, it's the lifeblood that keeps their country vibrant, diverse, and, let's be honest, economically viable. I mean, have you seen their birth rates lately? They need all the help they can get. But I digress. The point is, Canada gets it. They understand that welcoming immigrants from all corners of the globe isn't just the right thing to do, it's also bloody brilliant for their economy, their culture, and their ever-growing collection of delicious ethnic restaurants. And the best part? They're not just content with letting immigrants in, they actively encourage them to integrate, to share their cultures, their languages, and their, dare I say, slightly neurotic anxieties about hockey season. Now, before you go booking a one-way ticket to this seemingly perfect poutine-filled paradise, let's address the elephant in the room, or should I say the moose in the snowdrift. Because, and let's not sugarcoat it, Canada's history with cultural diversity isn't exactly spotless. Just like any country with a past, they've had their fair share of missteps, of prejudice, of systemic discrimination that continues to this day. The treatment of Indigenous peoples, for example, is a dark stain on Canada's otherwise relatively shiny record, and while they've made strides in recent years to acknowledge and address these injustices, there's still a long way to go. It's a work in progress, a messy, complicated, and often uncomfortable process. But hey, at least they're trying, which is more than can be said for some, wouldn't you agree? So yes, Canada's cultural tapestry is beautiful, vibrant, and full of flavor. But it's also important to remember that it's woven with threads of struggle, resilience, and the ongoing fight for true equality. It's a story that's still being written, one conversation, one protest, one awkward language mishap at a time. Alright, let's talk about Canada's great outdoors, because if there's one thing Canada's got more of than hockey players, it's probably trees. And lakes, and mountains. Seriously, have you seen a map of this place? It's massive. You could fit like 3 or 4 Americas in there, depending on how much you squish them. And most of it, as you can see, is just nature. Which, you know, for a country obsessed with putting maple syrup on everything, makes a weird kind of sense. But we're not just talking about a few maple trees and a beaver dam or two. We're talking about 48 national parks, covering over 140,000 square miles. That's bigger than the entire country of Germany. And what do they have in Germany again? Oh right, efficiency. Canada, bears. Now, you might be thinking, John, that's a lot of nature, like an almost irresponsible amount of nature. What are they even doing with all that space? Well, I'm glad you asked, because the answer is delightfully Canadian. They're protecting it. These national parks aren't just for show, they're a big part of Canada's commitment to environmental sustainability. They've got strict regulations, conservation efforts, and a whole lot of respect for the land. It's almost enough to make you forget about their, let's say, complicated relationship with the oil sands. Almost, but hey, nobody's perfect, right? The point is, Canadians seem to genuinely understand that you can't just take from the environment. Sometimes you have to give back and maybe apologize to a moose if you accidentally interrupt its morning swim. Now, all this natural beauty doesn't come cheap. Maintaining these parks, protecting wildlife, and keeping the air clean takes a lot of work. And by work, I mean money. Sweet, sweet taxpayer money. But here's the thing. Canadians seem mostly okay with that. They understand that having a healthy environment is not just good for their souls, it's good for their wallets. Tourism, for example, is a huge industry in Canada, and it relies heavily on, you guessed it, those pristine landscapes. So while some countries see environmental protection as a luxury, Canada gets that it's an investment. It's like buying a really nice air purifier, except the air purifier is a mountain range, and instead of a filter, it's a family of caribou. Of course, no conversation about Canada's environment would be complete without mentioning the elephant, or rather, the melting glacier in the room: climate change. Like the rest of the world, Canada is facing the very real consequences of a warming planet, from more extreme weather events to threats to its biodiversity. But unlike some countries, Canada is actually trying to do something about it. They've invested in renewable energy, implemented carbon pricing, and are actively working to reduce their greenhouse gas emissions. Now, are they doing enough? Well, that's a matter of much debate and probably a whole other video, but at least they're on the right track. And hey, if anyone knows how to deal with a melting glacier, it's a country that invented the Zamboni. Okay, so we've talked about Canada's size, its niceness, its frankly irresponsible amount of nature. But what about its brains? Because believe it or not, this country is more than just a giant apologetic national park. It's also a hotbed of innovation and technological advancement. I know, it's a lot to process. You're probably thinking, John, are you telling me that the country that gave us Justin Bieber also gave us the technology for the internet? And to that I say yes, I am. Because while the world was busy focusing on, starting wars and inventing the selfie stick, Canada was quietly churning out some of the most important inventions of the 20th and 21st centuries. Let's start with the obvious, shall we? The telephone. That magical device that allows us to instantly connect with people across the globe and also endure endless robocalls about our car's extended warranty. You can thank a Canadian for that. That's right. Alexander Graham Bell, the father of the telephone, was a Scottish-born Canadian. And while the debate over whether he actually invented the telephone is still a thing, because of course it is, there's no denying his contributions to the field of communication technology. So the next time you're scrolling through TikTok on the toilet, take a moment to thank Canada for the technology that made it all possible. And then maybe take a moment to reassess your life choices. Now let's fast forward to the 21st century, where Canada is making waves in the exciting and slightly terrifying world of artificial intelligence. That's right, folks, the land of moose and mounties is also a leader in AI research and development. From deep learning to natural language processing, Canadian universities and companies are at the forefront of AI innovation. And while some people might be worried about the rise of the machines, Canadians are just out there trying to teach robots how to say sorry in the most passive-aggressive way possible. Because if there's one thing Canadians are good at, it's apologizing. Even when they're the ones building the robots that will one day inevitably enslave us all. But Canada's technological prowess doesn't stop there. Oh no, my friends, it goes so much deeper. We're talking life-saving medicine, groundbreaking entertainment, and everything in between. Take insulin, for example. This life-saving medication for people with diabetes, you guessed it, discovered in Canada. Or how about IMAX, that giant movie screen that makes you feel like you're actually riding a roller coaster or being chased by dinosaurs? Canadian invention. So the next time you're watching a breathtaking documentary on the mating habits of the Canadian goose in glorious IMAX 3D, just remember, you wouldn't be able to experience the majesty of nature in such excruciating detail without the ingenuity of the Canadians. And also, maybe consider getting out more. Well folks, there you have it. A whirlwind tour of Canada's economy, politics, culture, nature, and technological innovations. And honestly, I'm exhausted. Being this impressed by a country is surprisingly tiring. But seriously, Canada is a fascinating and complex country with a lot to offer the world. From its stunning natural beauty, to its commitment to social justice and its surprisingly robust tech scene, there's a lot to admire about the Great White North. So the next time you find yourself thinking about Canada, try to go beyond the stereotypes of hockey, maple syrup, and excessive politeness. There's a whole lot more to this country than meets the eye, eh? Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more fascinating insights into countries around the world. See you next time. And hey, what do you think is the most interesting fact about Canada? Let us know in the comments below.